A TGIF to everyone out there. This is the First Call Podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Xpressbet. We're going to handicap some stakes races for you this weekend. Of course, we've got 2/3 of the Triple Crown in our rearview mirror now, Jeff, and we're awaiting the Belmont Stakes. So if this feels like a little bit of a lull in the action, it can be, but it can also be quite profitable.
Well, it can be that for sure. We're doing Saturday, but let's not forget Memorial Day weekend. So there's good racing Sunday and really good racing out here anyway at Santa Anita. I've checked the stake schedule. We got the Gold Cup on Monday and several others. So good racing here in California throughout the weekend, and I'm sure it's going to be good racing in other parts as well. So we'll do Saturday's card, but Sunday and Monday's cards around the country should be pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, Sunday has already entered for most of the tracks around the country. Monday entering today for that Gold Cup card at Santa Anita. We'll talk about some of those horses who may be going in those races a little bit later in the show. But for the benefit of those of you watching on Twitter, X, or on YouTube, be sure to like and favorite this and share it out with all of your audience. And for those of you listening on our traditional audio channels, here is the rundown of the 8 stakes races Jeff and I will handicap for Saturday, May 25th. We'll start off at Gulfstream Park, where it's the Big Drama and the Mr. Steele, 2 co-features there. We'll handicap those races from South Florida. To the Jersey Shore we go, Monmouth Park for the Cliffhanger Stakes. Prep there for the United Nations coming up on Haskell Day. At Belmont at the Big A at Aqueduct, we'll talk about the Panine Ridge Stakes for 3-year-olds on the grass. We'll go to Churchill Downs for the Kyana Distaffers going long in the Turf Marathon division. And out to Santa Anita, where it is a big gold rush day for California breds. We will look at 3 of the 5 stakes races on the card. The Thor's Echo, the Snow Chief, and the Melair Stakes will be our top selections from Santa Anita on Saturday. We've got a hit and split for you that you want to check out on the late pick 4s at Santa Anita. If you bet with First Bet and Xpressbet Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or holiday Monday over the next 4 days, late pick 4's got a $5,000 hit and split bonus. So if you hit the late pick 4, get your pari-mutuel winnings plus your share of $5,000 with just the other players on the platform who hit it. So $20,000 in late pick 4 hit and splits coming up over the next 4 days when playing Santa Anita. Jeff, let's start off at Gulfstream Park. We'll take it east to west, I guess, and we'll start with the Big Drama Stakes. Race number 7 on the Saturday card, named for the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. 7 furlongs here for Open Company, 100 grander. And, you know, there's some interesting horses in here because you got some sprinters, then you got some handicap division horses, and it's not necessarily a mid-road distance at 7 furlongs. You think sprinters when you think 7/8 of a mile, but this attracted a pretty interesting cast.
It has a horse named Octane in here who fits that bill, that description. He's a handicap horse. He looks like he's a router, and he is. He can route, but he can sprint as well. He's very effective around one turn in either a 7 furlong or maybe a 1-turn mile type of situation. Although he did not run well in the Oaklawn handicap last time out, his previous form was pretty genuine, pretty consistent, good, strong, solid numbers. First or second, 10 out of 15 times over the Gulfstream Park main track. Again, I mean, he looks like a horse who deserves to be favored. I don't know whether there's a gambling number there at 7-5 in the morning line, but based on his best race and his numbers, he really should beat this field.
Let's take a look at Octane's victory. Matt Dinnerman on the mic at Oaklawn Park last time out.
Ass too. He's going well, Notary. Octane moves alongside of him, and now Promise Keeper has been swallowed up. He's done. Octane, Notary, side by side, and Notary has the head lead. Notary off the turn, trying to put away Octane as they come down the lane. OP Firecracker at a big numbers running well today. Notary has asked for his best. Octane determined on the inside. Notary drifts to the center of the track. Octane, the Florida shipper's almost there. He's in front. Magic Tap diving after him in a second, but it's Octane, Julian Leperoux.
If you're going to beat Octane, it's probably because of the distance, right? So if you're looking for a specialist at this 7/8 of a mile, Shaq Diesel's one I thought was worthy of a look in here. Trained by David Fox, who trained Big Drama himself, the namesake of this race. This is a horse who's 4 for 9 going 7/8 of a mile. The question for me was Shaq Diesel, Jeff, and this is one where I wish there was more stats on it. You don't see this in any of the handicapping products, but Lasix, non-Lasix situation. This is a horse who's almost all of his best races have been when he's had Lasix in his last 10 that you can see on the form. Without the Lasix, there's a little bit more concern for Shaq Diesel in here. And of course, in this stakes race, no Lasix eligible to be run here in this 100 granders. So I haven't observed a lot of horses that were discernibly different in their form between the Lasix and not Lasix. I think it's been, in general, as a handicapper, and again, no data supporting this, but in general, my observation is it's been a relative non-factor. But with some horses, you have to realize it's a big factor for some horses, and just kind of identifying the form with and without Lasix is just kind of a manual process for handicappers in this era that we're in.
It used to be where, believe it or not, I mean, we're talking back in the 80s when Lasix first became legal.
Right.
But it was never reported. It was legal, but no one told you if the horse was adding it or not,
Right.
So one day I saw a horse that could be 15 lengths. First time started, showed speed and stopped. I didn't think, that horse ran like a bleeder. I thought that horse ran like a horse with cheap speed, And I didn't even consider it. Then I ran into the late Gary Jones, who had the horse, and I said, that horse that you have looks like a lot of speed, but it doesn't have much finish, And he said, that horse bled, getting Lasix. I think she's going to run a whole lot better today.
Yeah.
Anyway, and she's like 15-1. I figured, okay, I'll take the bait. Anyway, she won by like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, how long is this going to last?
Right.
I had the ability to go in the backstretch and ask trainer. I mean, you talk about an edge, and it lasted for about 6 months, and they started reporting it. So the edge that I had dissipated pretty quick. But now so much everybody. And by the way, then you had to actually have been, in order to get Lasix, you had to actually bleed, and you had to be examined by a vet who put you on a bleeders list. But again, it was never published anywhere. So that lasted for a while, and that was like 40 years ago. And now you don't need any excuse. You just add it if you want it, and everybody runs on it. So you don't see it that often. But what now you see is horses getting off Lasix, and you talked about tracking the stats, and we don't have that. But Jack Diesel looks like a horse that he might need it. You never
might
know.
need it, right? We'll see how he performs here, because again, he's in good form right now. This is his best distance over his home track. He should fire a good shot if the Lasix isn't part of the equation. So we'll find out with him, Shaq Diesel, there in race number 7 at Gulfstream Park. To the 9th we go on Saturday's card. It's the co-featured $95,000 Mr. Steele, 1 mile and a 16th in this race. I don't know who Mr. Steele is. I like to be fancy myself as a historian and tell you who these races are named after as we go through them. Maybe it's a person named Mr. Steele. I don't think there's a horse named Mr. Steele that I could find anywhere of any significance. So if you know who Mr. Steele is, hit us up on X at Horse Player Now. Let me know who in the world Mr. Steele is. But let's talk about the race named the Mr. Steele. Mile and 16th here on the grass, Jeff. Gulfstream race number 9. Where are you looking?
It might be somebody's brother-in-law for all I know. I don't. That's always important. Anyway, well, I looked at main event here, 7 to 5 in the morning line, and he is the original need the lead type. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's never won, to my knowledge, at least not recently, in any race that he didn't make the lead. So the first thing you do when you handicap a horse like this, okay, is he going to make the lead?
Right.
And there is a possibility that he will, but there's also a possibility that Eyes on the King, who's drawn right inside of him, might beat him to the punch. They come out of that, out of that mile 16th straightaway to the clubhouse turn, and you have to get used pretty good to get over. If you don't, then you're going to be sitting second, and I'm not so sure main event at that price you want to take that price. On the other hand, Win for the Money, who's drawn in the 8-hole. Now, you look about a horse with style. He's outside. He's not going to make the lead, but that's fine with him. He wants to sit like third, and he couldn't he just draft right into it? Plus, he hasn't been out since December, but look at this workout here. 59 flat around dogs that are way out towards the middle of the turf course. If he had worked this on the rail without the cones, he probably would have gone in 57. And he's doing it easily. So it tells me, and by the way, he has run well fresh in the past, but it tells me that he is really sharp off the bench and could fire a big shot for Mark Cassie. He's run well on the course in the past. He's relatively lightly raced as a 5-year-old. And again, as I mentioned, he has a history of running well fresh. So I think Win for the Money at 3 to 1 is going to drop in, get a great trip, and then based on this workout, just blow on by in the final furlong.
Yeah, and this is his kind of distance, that mile and a 16th. He's by Mohamed out of a war chant mare. I know he went the 1.5 miles. They tried him 1.25 miles in the Arlington Million. He went the 1.5 miles up at Woodbine, but his best form is going to be in this 1.16 miles kind of area based on his pedigree and his past running lines, where he's run exceptionally over this trip. Edwin Gonzalez rides for Mark Cassie. Cassie's got 2 in the race. He's got the other speed in here, Eyes on the King. So Cassie can kind of control things a little bit with Main Event, the favorite in there. So he's got another player in here pace-wise, maybe where a win for the money, like you said, could just hit a dream trip, 3rd, 4th, something like that, and then try to go by those top 2 that are duking it out on the front end. That's a look at the 2 stakes races on Saturday from Gulfstream Park. We've got the big drama and also the Mr. Steele Stakes. To Monmouth Park we go, up the shoreline, 1.16 miles on the grass for the Cliffhanger. This race is 100 grander, a prep race for the United Nations, which comes up on Haskell Day later this summer. Cliffhanger Stakes, listed stakes for $100,000. Jeff Siegel, who are we looking at as your top pick here in race 7 at Monmouth?
I'm looking at General Jim, even though off the layoff he did not perform up to snuff in an allowance race. That was back on May 3rd. Coming back in 3 weeks for Shug. He ran like a horse that was rusty. He has a history of racing himself into shape anyway. And I think, and he was very close to a very hot pace. That second quarter of 22 flat in New York kind of cooked him. But now he vans down to Monmouth Park. He goes along on the turf, which he has done successfully in the past. And I just have a hunch that they just kind of gave him a run there. Get him fit. He's not normally a front runner. He was actually closer to the pace in that 7 furlong sprint than he usually is over a distance of ground, which is usually the way around, you know. So I think that kind of tightens up. Nicely bred, $850,000 yearling by Any Mischief, who's had some good form in the past. You know, he won a really nice allowance race at Keeneland back when he was a 2-year-old. So I think he's always been well regarded, but I think now at 4, the fact that he's coming out of an allowance race and being run into a stakes race, he's got to be doing well. He's got 2 breezes since this race. I think you're going to see the best of what General Jim has to give in the Cliffhanger, and he's 6-1.
He's got that style and the form cycle that I like, right? Sprint the route and second off the layoff all in the same swoop. That's old school. Give him a race on the race back and then send him and go. And like you said, he's done this exactly before. His career debut, sprinting on the dirt. Second start, they sent him long on the turf, and he was a winner. So he's repeating that same form cycle for Shug. Interesting horse in here, I think, is Data Man as well. Wertheimer and Frere, homebred here. Really well-bred Tappet. Colt for trainer Graham Motion. Won the Henry S. Clark, which is the local prep race, and he did so in nice fashion at Laurel, getting ready for what is the Dinner Party Stakes, which was run last week at Pimlico. That race, the Dinner Party, came up extremely strong this year. We talked about how that was a grade 3, 500 grander, but with the added purse money this year, the Dinner Party had 3 grade 1 winners in the field and was exceptionally strong. I think this is pretty good placement here. Usually I don't like horses taking the easier spot, but when you look at the win in the Henry Clark for this one off the layoff, Graham's got horses in Maryland. He had a bunch running, of course, on the card at Pimlico. He could have just thrown them to the wolves and see what we have with Data Man for that $500,000 race. But I like that they're getting on the van and going into Monmouth for this race. I think it's a pretty good sign. Data Man, to me, could be pretty effective in this particular spot.
I looked at Data Man very, very carefully and concluded that he had a really solid chance, but then I've sworn off Laurel Shipper, so I can't pick him.
That's right.
You've
fallen into the pit a few times. I know that.
One too many, you know, so.
You're listening to your advice now, Jeff.
Yeah, which
we're
is
turning
also,
over a new leaf here.
That's also a first
your
for
own
me.
advice.
You know, absolutely.
From Monmouth to Belmont at the Big A, we go next on the show, and we go to the 1 1/8 Panine Ridge. Grade 2, $200,000 race. I don't think this is grade 2 quality, but for $200,000, it's a pretty good looking stakes race. This is one of those races where NYRA gets the benefit, I think, a lot when it comes to the graded stakes, given the Panine Ridge Stakes, certainly one of those benefiting as they're trying to build up that 3-year-old turf division. Of course, you've got some really good races in New York coming up. There'll be the Saratoga Derby Invitational, the Belmont Derby Invitational, some good 3-year-old turf races coming up. These horses in this particular spot, though, in the Panine Ridge are trying to make their hay, I think, Jeff. We don't have a really established star in the 3-year-old turf division in this particular field. So how do you see it shaking out?
Well, I really liked Legend of Time on Derby Day at Churchill. I thought he was a good thing, and I wasn't the only one. He was 6-5. But I knew he was in trouble as they passed the stands for the first time because he was really keen, really on the bridle, really on the bit. He wasn't relaxed. I'd watched his races in Dubai where he switched off beautifully. So I don't know whether he got excited. Maybe it was the crowd. Maybe he was just too fresh. I'm not sure what it was, but I could see going into the clubhouse turn, this was not the Legend of Time that I had seen. It was so impressive in Dubai. Now they switched to Rosario. I hope that he settles in this race, because in looking at the opposition in this race, the Legend of Time that ran overseas would annihilate this field. The one that ran at American Turf at Churchill would not. So this is the kind of horse that I would definitely watch in the post-parade warm-ups to see if he looks like he's settled down. And if he looks good, I think you'll see the best of Legend of Time. But if he looks like he's getting a little hot and bothered and he's a little aggressive in the warm-ups, then you might get the same one that failed so badly in the American Turf. But I mean, he's 2-1. He really should beat this field. I really had I thought that risk tolerance was intriguing. First time starter, broke his maiden. Then is being jumped into this grade 2 by Chad Brown. That's an aggressive move. That tells me that he likes his colt. So I went back and watched his race at Aqueduct to see if I could see anything in that debut maiden win that he had, and he just looked average to me. He didn't have the acceleration. He didn't quicken. He was just kind of a grinding type. He won the race. They all kind of finished in a heap at the end. And so I was worried about him as kind of a stranger danger type of horse, but I'm not that worried now if Legend of Time shows up. So that's the gamble for me that he will.
There's a couple Keeneland winners in this race coming off victories. White Palomino for Chad Brown, Royal Majesty for Bill Mott. Of those two races that I assessed, I thought that Royal Majesty was the better of the two winners. Really had no pace help at all and still got up to win easily and drawing off on the back end. White Palomino had a fast pace, got a really nice setup in that particular race, and, didn't dominate the field quite the same way, I don't think, over the final eighth of a mile. That was a little bit longer of a race, but it was exceptionally fast paced, 46 and change for a mile and 3/16. So I would expect that of the two Keeneland horses, Royal Majesty was the stronger of the two. Jeff telling you that if Legend of Time runs back to that race in Europe, and the race is in Europe, that he's going to be awfully tough in there. So Legend of Time, Royal Majesty, those two, that seems very British. Let's go with that exactly in there.
Well, they both were bred in England, so there you have it.
There you go. Very British indeed.
Yeah.
We switch gears now to Churchill Downs on Saturday. Saturday matinee card. If you want more on the Churchill program for Saturday, our handicapper with First Bet and Xpressbet, the new kid on the block for us. He's not a new kid, but Scott Shapiro's been around a long time. He's now with us with Xpressbet and First Bet. He's got his spot plays on the card for Churchill Downs already posted in blog form, so you can check that out at news.first.com and on the blog section at expressbet.com for more on these Churchill races on Saturday. Check out Scott's blog. The Kirtana Stakes, named for the Tom Proctor trainee, was really good on the grass going long. Of course, this is 1.5 miles on the turf. So let's talk about the Kirtana coming up next, Jeff. A field of 7 in the Churchill feature on Saturday.
Chop really took to that 1.5 mile distance at Keeneland in the Bewitch. I mean, they went slow, and then they finished fast, which is great to see. Sometimes these middle distance horses, they kind of run off early and then they're spent.
Yeah.
But Chop ran in that race, Jeremy, like she'd been doing it all of her life.
Yeah.
She hadn't done. You don't necessarily expect a City of Light filly or colt to be a marathon turf horse, but Chop clearly is. Earned by far a career top buyer number in 95 and winning the Keeneland. Is there any reason to expect, Jeremy, that Chop won't run as well in the Kirtana as she did in the Bewitch?
That race was odd because everybody expected it to be the return of Warlike Goddess. She was going to be a heavy favorite in there, and Bill Mott scratched her the morning of the race. Then you looked at it on paper, and it was a smallish field of 6 with no speed in it at all. And everybody just assumed Vergara was going to go to the front. And so it became one of those default 3-2 favorite on Vergara because it just looked like lone speed, and that's how the race was going to shake out. Vergara never got closer than third early on, and the race didn't play out any way that anybody expected. So I did not think that Chop Chop had the ability going into that race. I thought she was like a mile and 16th tops, kind of horse. She got it that day. And so once you've seen it, then you've got to believe it, right? I mean, can she repeat the effort will be the question, but she's back against many of the same. Atomic Blonde, Vergara. They just changed venues now from Keeneland to Churchill. These turf courses both used to be very similar playing. They're different turf courses at Churchill Downs now. So it's not the same, that we know that they're going to transfer their form. Used to be almost synonymous between turf form at Churchill and Keeneland. Now they're different courses, so you got to kind of reevaluate and not just take that rubber stamp that you think the Keeneland horses will repeat their form on the turf at Churchill. First time on the grass at Churchill for Chop Chop. Now you got to take 9-5, though. That's the only bad part about it, right? After she got the victory last time, the weight shift isn't that big of a deal in this particular spot, 2 pounds here and there. So that shouldn't be a big deal. And if you look at the newcomers, you're trying to find a fresh face in here. I don't find any of the fresh faces all that interesting in here to me. So it almost feels like it's got to be somebody back out of the Bewitched Stakes. Let's give the fans a chance to watch the Bewitched come home and see maybe through the replay if anybody can figure out how this might turn out differently than Chop Chop would.
Chop Chop from the outside, Vergara to the inside, and then 5 more lengths. Atomic Blonde goes to third, Lovely Princess now fourth, and Chop Chop has a narrow lead into the final furlong. Vergara tries to respond in second, 3 more lengths. Atomic Blonde is running late from third. It is Chop Chop in front, a 3.5 length lead in deep stretch. Atomic Blonde goes to second. Chop Chop with Axel Concepcion aboard to win the Bewitched.
She looked best to me coming out of that race. Going into it, I didn't believe it, but my lion eyes don't want to tell me anything different after seeing that, Jeff. I don't see a major turnaround here unless she just loses form. I think she's in good form right now for Brad Cox. What has she got? 5 in a row in the exacta, right? And she's done it every which way, right? Synthetic, turf, going miles, going long. She's just in really good form right now. She'll probably handle it again.
And there's speed in this race to set her up for her, even though we thought she might be speed. But again, the fact that she was able to switch off so effectively, it looks like she's learned how to do that. I mean, when I say going to the front, I mean, we were talking about going 1.5 miles. I mean, anytime you get middle distance horse and they put them 1.5 miles, they almost always are in the first flight. But she was very happy. Now, Vergara and Sand and Sea, they only have one way to go to be effective. And so I think Chop Chop can kind of just draft in behind him and just kind of do what she did last time.
Let's turn our attention now to Santa Anita on Saturday, where it's California Gold Rush Day. Multiple stakes on the card for the state breds. We've also got the $500 Santa Anita handicapping challenge. So if you like to play the tournaments, be sure to check out that $500 tournament on Saturday. There is a $40 feeder tournament Friday going into Saturday. So if 500 is too steep for you in the tournament game, try to qualify today on Friday on Santa Anita's card. Play the tournaments at Xpressbet.com. Again, the feeder tournament today, just $40. Win your way into that $500 Santa Anita handicapping challenge coming up on Saturday. To the great race place, we talk about the 3 stakes races on the card that we're going to handicap: the Thor's Echo, the Snow Chief, and the Melair Stakes. And we've got race number 3 on the card being the Thor's Echo, named for a Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. Good weekend for Breeders' Cup Sprint winners, Jeff. You got big drama with a race in his name, and Thor's Echo as well. This one was the Doug O'Neill trainee, Thor's Echo, won the Breeders' Cup at Churchill Downs back in somewhere in the 2000s, I think, in the early 2000s. It might have
been 2003, but I could be wrong. The only thing I remember about Thor's Echo is, for some reason, I was in the paddock at Breeders' Cup at Churchill for that race. I must have had a pass. I don't know what I was doing down there, but all I remember is I did bump into Doug O'Neill, who was saddling the Thor's Echo in that race, who I didn't really give. I mean, I thought he had a little bit of a look, but I went down there. I think I went down to ask him about a horse later in the day, and he kind of cold watered me on that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, okay, good luck anyway, and then he said, and then he says, oh, by the way, this horse will win. Thor's Echo. Now, normally I don't take much that from any kind of trainer. I'd like,
Right.
yeah, okay. But I sort of in the back of my mind thought, I can live with that. I can believe it. He had that improving pattern. Anyway, he just ripped out a win that day. He was so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I think he keyed something like a $10,000 pick 4 or 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was just a massive payout.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have had it, but I couldn't play it. You know why? Because I had a horse in the juvenile, and I couldn't bet the race because I already had a horse in the race. So my horse not only did he not win the juvenile, he finished off the board and cost me a lot of money because I couldn't play it. I was actually trying to obey the rules. Now I don't think I've done that very often, but that day I did. And anyway, that's my Thor's Echo story. So he brings back mixed emotions for me.
I was going to say, that might be a painful memory there. I don't know.
Well, but you know what I did learn? I learned that Doug O'Neill is a pretty good source. He knew what he was talking about.
In that case, he did.
I think I utilized that bit of information later on successfully too. So, and still do, by the way.
Let's talk about this Thor's Echo for California breds, $100,000. If you're talking sprinters in the Calbred ranks, you're talking about the Chosen Vron, the Wind Machine, 17 for 22. He's coming back on, about 4 weeks rest from the Kona Gold Stakes. He reunites with Big City Lights. Big City Lights have run second to Thor's Echo, 4 or 5 times in a row. Finally got away from him and won a couple, but inevitably their paths are going to cross again on Saturday, Jeff. A field of 5 in here. The Chosen Vron, Big City Lights, good looking group in this particular spot. Of course, the 2 Salas D's got plenty of speed, probably pops out of there and makes the front with the Chosen Vron and Big City Lights, always in close company with each other as they try to turn into the stretch. How do you see it turning out?
I'm sure Big City Lights will take a look at the Chosen Vron in the walking ring and say, "You again." If you look at Big City Lights, has won every race he's ever run in. Every race he's won.
That's right. I'm just now noticing that.
Chosen Vron was in.
Yeah.
If you take away Chosen Vron, and then the Big City Lights is like undefeated.
Yeah.
He's a good horse, by the way. He really is. The problem with Big City Lights as compared to the Chosen Vron is the Chosen Vron usually wins the break and is usually 2 to 3 lengths in front of Big City Lights in the opening furlong. And Big City Lights cannot give that kind of head start that's Chosen Vron. It's just the Chosen Vron is quicker leaving the gate. The Big City Lights used to be quicker. He's had some issues. In fact, I think he missed a whole year almost. But he's still a really, really good horse. Both made hard work of their most recent wins.
Yeah.
Big City Lights won by a nose. It was a desperate finish behind a very good sprinter named Hopkins. Yeah. And then, of course, the Chosen Vron made hard work of it when he won the Kona Gold over Happy Jack, who was 5 clear of everybody else. And you may remember Happy Jack running in the Derby and the Preakness as a 3-year-old, and I thought they were overmatching him then, but apparently he has survived that because that last race that Happy Jack ran against the Chosen Vron was his best race. In fact, the Chosen Vron earned a 102 Beyer number, which is 1 point below a career top. So even though he was all out to win it, he ran his race. It just got to give the runner-up a little bit of an edge there. I mean, a little bit of a compliment. Big City Lights just isn't as fast as Chosen Vron. That's the difference.
Let's take a look at that last win in the Kona Gold by the Chosen Vron and see, is he giving any signs at all of vulnerability now at age 6?
As the field turns from the Chosen Vron and Happy Jack are head and head. The Chosen Vron at the rail. Happy Jack making him work hard. These two are 4 clear of Express Train in third, and now the Chosen Vron starts to assert himself coming to the 16th pole. Happy Jack trying so hard in second, but the Chosen Vron is simply the Chosen Vron, and he wins the Kona Gold.
That's a great explanation. He's simply the Chosen Vron. And if you saw there, Hector Barrios shook the reins a couple times, flagged once or twice this side, flagged once or twice this side. That's a more comfortable victory than it looks on paper. And that's why it's good to go back and watch replay sometimes, because if you look at that and you say 20 cents on the dollar, he's kind of winning by 3/4 of a length. Maybe he's not as impressive as he used to be. On numbers, it was a 102 Beyer, as fast as he's run in any of his previous races, really. But if you watch it visually, he was never asked. And that was really kind of the takeaway for me in that race, I don't see him getting beat again. That's no great shakes. He's 10 for 12 at Santa Anita. And again, poor Big City Lights. I think he's probably relegated to the second spot in here again. Moose Mitchell's not bad, a horse who likes Santa Anita. Jeff, if you're looking for a horse maybe to split them in the exacta, this is a horse who's taken on some good company in the past. And when he gets in open company, he's overmatched. But against the state breds, he's run some pretty decent races over the years. I don't know that he can run 1-2 in here, but Moose Mitchell might be one for me if you're trying to break up the two favorites. But this looks like the chalk here, 1 and 3.
Yeah, it's a fun horse to watch. He's won 12 out of his last 13. The Chosen Drawn, the only defeat coming in the Breeders' Cup behind Elite Power, and Gunite, I think we'll forgive him for that.
Yeah.
But also, you mentioned how easily, even though deceptively easy, he won the Kona Gold. But he's had 2 breezes since then, and in both of those workouts just galloping along, not even trying. So it looks like that even though he was extended a little bit in his last race, it didn't phase him in the least since that race, and I expect him to come back and do his thing again. Fun horse, really popular horse here in California.
Yeah, he'll be the star of Gold Rush Day, no doubt about it. On to the 3-year-olds going long on the turf, 1 1/8 for the Snow Chief Stakes. This race, I believe, in once upon a time was on the dirt. Snow Chief was obviously a dirt horse, Preakness winner, really good one in Southern California and shipped all around the country. I believe he won the Florida Derby as well as a 3-year-old, shipping around before going to Kentucky and then on to winning the Preakness. This is a race now on the grass, and we've got some horses who have some dirt form and some turf question marks, like Curlin's Chaos in here, and he answered that turf question mark last time in winning an allowance company. But prior to that, he was tried the Sunland Derby, the Santa Anita Derby. Not totally embarrassed in those 2 particular spots. 4th in both, beaten about 7-8 lengths in each, 8.5 by Stronghold, who's a solid 3-year-old, no question about it. So Curlin's Chaos probably has a little class edge with those 2 3-year-old open company races on his form. But the question marks in here become distance. They become surface. You've got horses like Shady Tiger coming off a win, 6.5 on the dirt. We know he can run on the turf sprinting. He's won on the turf sprinting. Now he's going to go 9 furlongs on the turf. This is an interesting race. I made it the Xpressbet race of the week. I like the field size, obviously, field of 10 in here amongst the races on the big California bred day. This is not an easy open and shut kind of race, though, Jeff. I think there are a couple different ways you can twist.
Yeah, this race, you mentioned that originally was on the dirt, but they switched it to the grass just simply because they got more horses that will run on the grass.
Right.
And then it's a pretty 9-horse field, but I mean, it's got some contention in it. And we know how well Shady Tiger has run and worked since his last race. I don't know whether he will go 1 1/8. I think Phil D'Amato is looking at this Calbred race for $125,000. I might as well find out now. Yeah. If he can do it, maybe we can try him in open company at Del Mar, where the races for 3-year-olds are primarily on turf. If not, we can always back him up. I don't think the surface is going to bother him. No. I hope they let him run out of there. I mean, that's Juan Hernandez is such a great rider. He's not taken back. I'm not saying he's going to gun him to the front, but at least get him into the fray so he doesn't have to. He'll still be able to be within range. Curlin's Kiss, I liked his last race. Look at the race. They ran 1:35.2, but they went the first half that day in 47.4 and the second half in 47.3, which is a good sign. It wasn't like they set it up for him, and he came against the grain, still was able to win, and win with something left. And it's a son of a clubhouse ride, who was a middle distance candy ride horse in his day, and he was a good racehorse. And that of Whereby Curlin, I mean, you'd think the longer the better for him. He was 4th, going 1 1/8 in the Santa Anita Derby on the dirt. Nothing wrong with that effort 2 races back. I think Curlin's Chaos got a big chance here with Shady Tiger. And there's another horse in here that I am very much interested to see how he performs. And that's number 8, Final Storm. He's by Blaine, out of Whereby Pioneer of the Now. He's never routed. Right. Another horse who looks like a horse. He looks like he might be a late running sprinter. I don't think he is. Pedigree suggests he's not. He got away a little tardily from the rail, dropped back, far back, and then really finished like a really good horse. And his numbers continue to rise. First time around 2 turns. I think Final Storm has got a chance to elevate himself pretty good here. So, and he's 6-1 in the morning line. So, yeah, I went with Shady Tiger, Curlin's Chaos, and Final Storm. I'll be very surprised if the winner is one of those three. On the form, Final Storm might be the best gamble. He's got the best morning line, highest morning line. I think he's dangerous. I really do.
Yeah, and look, he's had a lot of trouble getting out of the gate, whether it's his fault or other horses, and that's tough in turf sprints and dirt sprints. But now he gets a mile and an eighth on the turf. He can actually recover from any of that if he's got any self-imposed issues again. He's one of two in here for trainer Phil D'Amato, the 8 Final Storm. The other D'Amato is the one that's more of a known commodity to this point in his career, out the win in the Echo Eddie Stakes, that being Shady Tiger. Let's go back and watch Shady Tiger last out, winning on the main at Santa Anita.
Tom Seaver powers up on the outside to take the lead at the top of the stretch. Prince Prancelot, known ideas in between them. In the center of the racetrack, Shady Tiger, and Shady Tiger runs right on by. Shady Tiger and Juan Hernandez turning the Echo Eddie into a one-horse affair. The son of Smiling Tiger, Shady Tiger, strolls in by 6 widening lengths.
We'll see if that one can extend the trip to a mile and an eighth. We go to the 9th race on the card Saturday at Santa Anita to wrap up our handicapping. It's the Melair Stakes, $125,000. Melair was a really good filly, Jeff, for John Sadler, if memory serves me right. And she didn't have a long career, but she had one of those brilliant, flashy starts.
She is best remembered for beating, among others, as ironically enough, Snow Chief. When Snow Chief came back from the Triple Crown, the Preakness, he ran in a 1-turn mile, and I can't remember the name of the race. I think it was a cowboy race. Anyway, Snow Chief had the inside draw. Melair was on the outside. And Snow Chief had the credentials. He had the resume. And I'll never forget his saying, I love Snow Chief. He's a top-class 3-year-old. There's not a chance in the world he's beating Melair today. You know, Melair was a ruffian, California-bred ruffian-type filly, great filly. She was so fast and so classy and so good. She was Flightline for John Sadler before Flightline, even though she was a cabaret filly by Debonair Roger. And she didn't have much pedigree. I don't know where her abilities came from. But after she retired, they bred her to everything under the sun that was great. The Mr. Prospector, this, and I mean, everything. I mean, you name it, she got. The top guys never could come up with anything close to duplicating herself. I can tell you that. But I'm glad they named a race after her because she's one of the lost, forgotten, great California breds of all time. Now, this race is a competitive race, even though there's only 7 in here. Grand Slam Smile. I have to like her versatility because she's won going long on the grass. She's won sprinting on the dirt here at Santa Anita. She won sprinting at Santa Anita, and she also won on the all-weather at Golden Gate. So I don't care what they throw at her, what distance, what surface, it doesn't matter. The only thing that does matter is that, you know, she's basically going long. I mean, she's going to be a speed type filly. There's other speed in here, but somehow, some way, after working in 58 and change at Golden Gate Fields on the 19th, obviously she's doing well. I think Grand Slam Smile will find a way to win again.
She runs well fresh. You go back and look at her running lines. Won the career debut, won off the layoff in November. She's coming off the January layoff. Last time we saw her was in the Cow Cup Oaks.
And it's Grand Slam Smile and Recalcitrant. These two have been going at it throughout. It's been a dream trip for Asada Fries, who cruises up to them 3 wide at the top of the stretch. And here's Asada Fries let loose, gets a little reminder at the top of the stretch. Asada Fries, Recalcitrant, Grand Slam Smile is in between them. 3 back to prancing through Paris. And Grand Slam Smile has another gear and kicks clear at the 16th pole. Opening up 3, turning away Asada Fries and all the rest. Sushi Sticks on the scene late. Grand Slam Smile dominates the Leanne Howard California Cup Oaks.
We'll see if she returns a winner. Jeff Siegel thinks so in the Melair Stakes. That's race number 9 on Saturday at Santa Anita. Again, we want to remind you, we've got a big promo this weekend, $20,000 in late pick 4 hit and splits at Santa Anita, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So the late pick 4 boosted by $5,000 towards your winnings. You get your pari-mutuel winnings if you hit the late pick 4 on any one of those days. Plus, you'll split up to $5,000 with just other players at First Bet and Xpressbet who also hit the late pick 4 on those given days. So got to take a shot at that. And we want to remind you that Sunday's card at Santa Anita is already drawn. There's the Daytona Stakes as well as the Santa Margarita. Santa Margarita features none other than Adair Manor, one of the top fillies in the Breeders' Cup Distaff division around the country. Monday's card draws today. We record our podcast around noon on East Coast time, so we haven't seen the draw yet for Monday's races on Memorial Day Monday, but that card at Santa Anita on Monday is going to feature none other than the Hollywood Gold Cup, big one there. So a huge weekend of racing to come, Jeff. I know you've got a lot going on out there in your backyard. Extra weekend, I don't know, take Monday off, and we'll be back on Tuesday. No holiday week for us. We'll be back on Tuesday with It's Official.
Well, but we'll have a lot to talk about because Monday's card at Santa Anita, as I mentioned, is really good, and there'll be other big races around the country. So, I'll be at Santa Anita on Monday, enjoying the races, and then we'll be preparing while I'm there to for our podcast on Tuesday. It's Official. There'll be plenty It's Official topics, I'm sure, to talk about, and of course, we'll have the latest update on what might be happening in the Preakness.
My mouth's watering for picnic food on Monday, so be sure to have a carb sandwich for me there at Santa Anita when you're there on Monday. I have two, one for you and one for me while you're
All
on.
right.
That's going to do it for this edition of the First Call Podcast. Again, Jeff and I will be back with It's Official on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the racing around the country, and happy Memorial Day. Thanks to all those service members out there around the world to help keep us all safe. Take care, everybody.